Welcome to the Startup Grind.
I'd like to introduce Horie. She's the founder and CEO of Women's Startup Lab. She was named one of the top 10 CNN Visionary Women. Marie Claire's magazine, 20 Women Who Are Changing the Ratio. She's named Woman of Influence by the Silicon Valley Business Journal. And, you know, she actually came here from Silicon Valley. I mean, I have to thank Long Weong for driving here. So she left at 3 o'clock and made it with 5 minutes to spare. And, you know, and after this, she's got a 2-hour drive back. So please, everyone, give Ari a big round of applause. Ari?
Thank you. All right.
Thanks for coming all the way here to Sacramento.
Yeah, that was far. It's worth it, right? Yeah, so I see some of the familiar faces, so it's cool.
I was a little worried because Long was giving me status like, oh, it's been like 40 minutes and we've traveled 10 miles. Like, oh.
And then he said, I'm not sure we can make it.
And here you are, with 5 minutes to spare, actually.
So I just want to make sure I get to see everybody's faces. Right.
So, so really, what I try to do is I try to, have the audience sort of learn a little bit about you first. So where are you from, Ari, and what did your parents do?
Let's see. I was born and raised in Hiroshima, Japan, and my parents divorced when I was 1 year old. So I grew up in this single parents, only child household, and my mom had to figure it out, how to survive. So she started a restaurant, and the hour was long. So I didn't quite live with her until 7 years old, until she saved up enough money. So I was with a relative and things like that. So, it was a little bit of a not traditional setup, especially in Japan. Single parents were discriminated just because you must not be good enough to have a man to stay, all days. And so, you can have a great parents and so on, but the point is like what you learn from her. And one of the greatest gifts that she have given to me is two lessons. One is how society is the way it is, and you just have to make it through. So she never resent anything about what was happening in her life. And the other thing is go through your experience and form your own opinion. And I think that ties quite a bit about being an entrepreneur, because you have to be stubborn.
Yes.
And willing to take that scrape on your knee and be able to say, this is my opinion, and I'm going to run through it for a while and make it happen or not, right?
Right.
Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of where I come from. I came out of her.
So how did you, when did you come to the United States? Did you come to the United States for school, or?
It was just a 1 year exchange student program that I applied. And I didn't think I'm going to pass because I was a C student in English. But I passed through, so I said, okay, we'll just give it a shot. And my mom wasn't ready to let me go.
I don't think any
she wasn't
really
like,
is.
but I said, well, okay, I go there and learn English. So that's all I had in mind. But really learn about the culture. I think that was the biggest learning, is what I thought was right things to do in our culture when you come here is completely different.
Right.
And I think that was the beginning of questioning everything I knew was right might be completely wrong in many ways. You have to start challenging your known.
So you saw a big cultural difference, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like what's an example of the cultural difference from Japan and the United States?
Well, maybe because the diversity here, you can assume what other people think, versus in our culture, you're always assuming what other people are thinking, and you actually fulfilling their needs without asking, and that reflects your EQ level and intelligence. So before I do something, people already figure it out, what I want to drink, what I want to do, and I'm trying to make my life easier. So people always very considerate in a way. And here I was doing that, and nobody really cared, in the sense that, well, it's up to you. Why are you doing this for me? I was like, okay, I'm actually bothering someone, so I need to learn to ask and express and things. The other thing is, in Japan, we apologize to win. So if you get in a conflict, first thing is you say is, oh, I'm sorry. to build the relationship, then you go from there. Versus, I thought it was funny one time I was walking behind a girl, and she was standing in the refrigerator trying to get something, and she turned around and I happened to be behind, and we bumped into each other because she's the one, she turned around and hit me. But immediately I said, I'm so sorry, and I thought she's gonna say sorry. She just flipped, was like, why didn't you tell me you were walking behind me? And I'm like, wow. So if I'm passing by, I should have said, behind you. You know, you hear that expression here in the US, it never dawned on me that I have to say. But anyway, things like just a little culture difference, like, okay, express, don't assume, express. So that was a big shift coming from a different culture.
So what was your first job?
My job, I'm sure I have a different little things I don't remember, but to me, being a waitress was the real job that I experienced, and I was shocked how difficult it was.
Was that here in Japan or was that here?
Here, but I was working for a sushi restaurant, and I had to remember all those fish names, and it's like, I don't know. And I spilled soy sauce over some customer's lap, and I was terrible waitress, even though my mom owned the restaurant.
Okay. So your mom came here?
Eventually, when I had grandchildren.
Well, no, but so I'm sorry, so when your mom came here to start a restaurant and you were a waitress for that restaurant?
So no. My mom had a restaurant in Japan
so
to raise me. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when I was 17, I came here as an exchange student for 1 year. And I went back to Japan and decided to come back for college and so on. And so when I was a college student, I started working. I supposed to not work, but I did work, right? Yeah. Under the table, that sort of stuff, as a waitress.
I won't tell.
I won't tell, not on the video. And yeah, so I thought it was a very hard job because you have to remember, and you can't talk back. You're not asked to think, you have to just respond. And I always had to have my opinion, so I had to ask what's the best way. You should have a water versus tea. I was thinking, well, she should really have a tea. Anyway, so it was a very difficult job for me.
So I was looking through your your LinkedIn profile, and you had a pretty successful corporate career, it looked like.
I don't know, I think it's all relative. I'm being really honest. Working for IBM's, it's nice to have on the resume, but I don't know, I just keep saying like I was suck at it. I mean, it was a politics that I have to deal with, and some people are good at it, and I just felt that wasn't my strength. And then politics is everywhere, but what type? Right? Running your business and working with many people, politics and industry, there's many types, but particularly to the corporate. And I was only 26. Okay, so yeah, forgive me for being young, but that was the most important experience to me in my career, even though I had all the other stuff. But IBM really taught me the solid professionalism and etiquette, the sexual harassment, whatnot. It was just solid and has a lot of a great manager, but also that really taught me what works for me, what doesn't work for me.
So
yeah.
Your first company was, you made the kind of entrepreneurial jump. It was Amity International Trade. Yeah. So how did you go from the corporate world to being the entrepreneur?
Yeah. So one of those era you work for the many startup, and it's such a high demand. So I was working really late after eating their dinner, and getting a call at 2 a.m. Horie, can you come back because the code got messed up, and we don't know how to fix it, but we're afraid if we fix it, you marketing people gonna get mad at the engineers, right? So please come back. So I had those years, and I said, wow, when I had kids, I realized this might be really a bit too difficult. So I started not because I'm gonna have a greatest idea, I will grow my company, and I'll have a scalable business. One of those things, I just want to do I want to do one thing really well and give me money and life that I want, which is spending a time with the kids. So entrepreneurship, when we talk about in the Silicon Valley, what's on the paper, think that you have to be scalable, you have to make money and raise fund. But I think many of folks, they might not think that way too. So to me, it was one of those things that I just want to start so that I have freedom and I can utilize my skill. And I was making good enough money equivalent for the corporate life salary. Yeah.
So it was more like a flexible.
Yeah.
Earn money
So
on the
like
side.
I start working 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. graveyard shift, and I loved it because there was no kids screaming at me. They were under drug, they were sleeping. It was perfect.
Yeah, actually, as a parent, that's the parents here. After the kids go to sleep, that's your free time to work.
Yeah.
So you had, and I don't actually have the name of your second the startup after this.
Yeah. So the Mochigo, that was so after taking care of the two young children, and my mother moved in from Japan, but she actually ended up diagnosed as with a cancer. So eventually, being a full-time mom and taking care of a full-time caregiver, and when she passed away, I had this moment of like, wow, life is too short. I mean, you hear it all the time, but it really, when I see her go, I got this context of, wow, she has so much to give, and then she was like walking dictionary. She always read, so she had answer for many things, and she had a certain personality. People really appreciated her being around, and so wow, she can just be gone that way. What is my next 20 years, right? And to me was, okay, I want to live in my 20 years that makes a difference. And some people want to fully enjoy your life with the family, and I think we should have all sorts of definition of what does a success look like for you. And for me, I don't know what it was, maybe because I left Japan, came here, there's a sense of like, I got to see what I got to see, I want to give it back. And so, at that point, I was very much focusing on making an impact, and that kind of led into this startup, Mochigo. It was about edutech. Helping children to learn the second language through actual play. And here in the United States, not many people think second language is critical, but the rest of the world, having a second language to literally survival of their life, right? So I was coming up with that. And it kind of led into probably next question, well, so why did you start a Women's Startup Lab, right?
Well, actually, before that, when your last company, like, what were some of the challenges that you encountered in your I can't even say the name.
Mochigo.
Mochigo.
Yeah, so obviously I had a startup that was a bad name that you can't even pronounce. So that's like one of the lessons. And probably I did a lot of mistakes that I see many other startups make a mistake. I was very much of like religiously thinking I don't have money, therefore I do cut corner and save money for everything instead of trying to be creative and collaborate. I did a lot of mistake. I tried to develop the product, but I wasn't technical, so I think I took a lot longer than most other people, and thinking I was doing a really good job because it was hard work.
Did you do the Silicon Valley, VC rounds or the Sand Hill?
Oh,
rounds?
not at all.
No, it was all
Not at all.
bootstrap.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And I mean, I'll tell everybody. So like, I haven't even got like million user, and I used to think I should get funding. And I used to see so many other founders go through this kind of conversation. Like, I got a good idea. I have $1 billion market, and I can get that. So you should get. Like, I was very young too, at some point. So yeah,
Okay.
I did a lot of mistake as well.
So, what's the genesis of first? What's the genesis of Women's Startup Lab, and then I'll ask detail more in detail about it. So.
Well, I mean, I didn't start it off thinking this is going to be big or going to change the world. But I think it really started off seeing real problem. And I started this group to have a woman to support each other, but it wasn't just that. Other people came. And then other people came and said, I need this, or other folks who have made it through saying that I have my own painful path, and I want to have other women to not go through what I went through. So many people came and said, I want to be the mentor as well. So there was really try to create something that was much needed.
So it started initially as a support group, right?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Right. So now you can talk about what is Women's Startup Lab, and you can tell the audience what's the program about.
Yeah. Women's Startup Lab is a place for female entrepreneurs to come together and providing support. I mean, there's many other women's group, but specifically, I wanted to have an organization that has accountability. So not just come and get to know people and feel good about finger that you individually become possible supporter, but I wanted to have structure, I wanted to have accountability. So you stood there when things are hard. You stood there to provide help. And first 6 months, I spoke on over 260 people in the Valley why women are not out there. And I heard many reasons. And I don't know which one's truth, but many had a certain, like 2-3 consistent story. And one of the things was women don't have enough support. We have enough women well-meaning to help, but they don't lead into next step because everybody else is busy. And so I wanted to take a serious step. And that's why I started out as a support group, but I took step to say, let's make an accelerator where people actually commit to be there and have the Silicon Valley resources step in to say, I will give you my time and I want to see those female entrepreneurs to go through and to be successful. And so it was a hobby to support a group, and then it became more like, let's do it seriously. And so we're not spending time to feel good about it, but spend the time to actually make something happen tomorrow. Okay. So that was the...
So tell me about the program. Like, you know, is it like, does it meet once do you get new candidates, or is it kind of continually going? Or?
Yeah, so we run the accelerator program for 2 weeks program, intense program, and also 2 months program. And we run 2 weeks program more often, and those are really intense program from starting at 9 to possibly 7 o'clock. And we go through lean thinking, like redesigning, but not listening. We don't need to just listen and lecture, but actually hack through it together as a group. So you're thinking you got it, but when you have a 7 or 8, 10 other female entrepreneurs that are smart, ambitious, and knowledgeable, they tell you what you're missing, right? Which is really, really powerful. And you don't have other people like telling you those things because people wants to be polite, right? And that doesn't happen when you're there solid.
How many are
2
in the
weeks.
class?
So we try to keep a group small, so around 8 right now. And they spend all day for solid 2 weeks. And we bring the pitch instructor. We also bring the story making instructor, and they really go through 101. And your story will be different than her story. And it's not about the water bottle, but what water bottle is going to save the life of the people, right? So you have to have a story that resonates. It's powerful, that people actually want to work with you, become an advisor, and possibly be investing. So we don't fool around to just have a surface conversation, but we dig deep. As all of you know, that running a startup is hard.
Yes.
Right? As much as just go Las Vegas and gamble, you will have a higher chance of succeeding than starting a startup. And at the end of the day, you want to give up. And having those other entrepreneurs who go through challenges like you, but you spend enough time that you learn to trust each other, that you can call up and can you help me, is priceless. And so they leave with, wow, you know, I got best friends now.
So you have this class that sort of has this bond. And
yeah.
That kind of goes beyond after the sessions.
Right, right. The other thing, unique things about us is not only product. You have to have a product to have your startup to succeed, right? People are willing to pay. So we work on that, definitely, right? What is the strategy? How are you going to increase attraction? Things like that. And marketing strategy, financial modeling, all that stuff. Then the other hand, we actually put a lot of emphasis on the foundership. So you as an entrepreneur, you as a CEO, what do you have to know? And one of the things we do is specifically, topic that I deal with is a woman, unconscious bias. And people say, why the society is the way it is, why women is not getting funding, why this, why that. And I say, well, I don't want to talk about why. Maybe we can talk about it, but let's change the subject into what can we do now, right? And there's a lot of things that we could do, and it's your choice which path to choose. So I'll give an example. One of the classes we go through is image consultant. So it's not about image as being pretty and waving hands like this, not that. But it's about you as icon of that startup, social media startup or something else, more B2B. What kind of dress you want to wear, clothes, and what kind of hair, how you want to carry yourself. Dave McClure used a fucking shit, all that stuff. It fits in his icon and he wears it and then people accept it. I'm not saying a good or bad, right? But then there's an icon. So we don't talk about image consultant as pretty, but it's like who you are and how you want to resonate with the people. And one of the things we talked about is there's a guy comes in, he's a white, wearing hoodie, shorts and sandal. And let's say VC leans, like, wow, he's Harvard grad, he must be connected, he must be partying all the time. And he's connected. So then they listen. Next person come in, African American gentleman come in with exactly same, and they're kind of thinking, is he the ghetto? It's a gangster, right? They might not say it, it goes through. We have a brain that functions that way. We have an unconscious bias that keeps certain images in store, and it fires off that you don't even know it. So you consciously have to stop you doing that, right? Just not just the men, VC, we women do that. Then next time, the woman comes in with a hoodie, shorts and sandal. Usually doesn't happen, but if you do that, the audience would be thinking, why is she wearing? Or she comes in with a certain suits, looks professional. Right? And then you might say, I just want to be who I am. I'm just going to wear a hoodie and skirt. I want to be who I am. That might work. And I said, you can choose it, go for it. And if you want to wear suits, go for it. But the point is, what is your focus? If you want people to really focus on what you have to say about your business, how do you want to dress in the way to remove any of a barrier, a doubt? And unfortunately, whether we accept or not, sometimes a woman has that extra challenges in the tech world that the men tended to set the tone that they might have a certain image. It's not men's fault, but we all function that way. So we talk about that kind of, you as a founder, you as a CEO, what kind of persona, charisma do you have to be effective so you can resonate as a powerful CEO.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of the support from the Silicon Valley,
yeah.
And actually, I was looking at your, you have Bill Riker as one of your mentors. What kind of? Can you tell me about the support you're able to get for Women's Startup Lab?
Yeah. So we have a lot of instructors who write books and give a presentation as a keynote and big conferences. They all come through because they know that they have to create a more role model. Female entrepreneur to be out there. They want to contribute. So because many of them give their time for free or a minimal amount, we ended up getting a lot richer instructor, very high-level instructor come through and teach. So they involve as teaching very specific workshop. They come in as a speaker and tell the honest truth what happens in the valley so that you're prepared. And then choose how you react. And then others comes in as advisor. So we've been really fortunate.
The 2-week period, is there like a, like a lot of the sellers have like a pitch, showcase. Do you guys do that too?
No, actually we don't. For 2 weeks program, we do just the obviously pitch and story making is a key skill set that we want to make sure that they can be out there and speaking. So we prepare them to the level they can actually be on the stage, right? But we don't necessarily fold because part of our mission is to train as many women as possible. And we also focus on a pre-accelerator level, which means the startup who haven't quite gotten the traction or funding ready. And so we can actually help those female entrepreneurs. So those who already had enough traction that ready to get investment, they go to 2 months program. And those a little bit earlier one, we take them in a 2 weeks program.
Okay, so 2 weeks program is like me. So let me ask this: how what are you looking for? Can anyone apply, or do you?
Anyone can apply, but you have to have at least a product that you have done some work to say demo and launched, or you already have a spec written and working on the demo, but you have enough experience. Validation has being completed.
Okay.
Right. And so that's most of the target. Many of them have some sort of attraction, and but not to the point of investor would think they're ready. So we try to polish them and get them connected, so they're really focused on the things they need to do.
So the 2-week program is sort of like they're not quite ready yet, and you're helping them.
And I have to say, a reason why we start doing a 2 week programs, we actually get an application around the world, and many of women entrepreneurs who already made it. I know my product, I dominated my market, and I want to come to Silicon Valley as an international opportunity entry, but I want to go 500 startup or Y Combinator among those younger people and hustle. And I know what I'm doing. I just need a place to land and go through, and community based. The woman focus, that's comfortable, so I want to go through Women Startup Lab. But I can't do 2 months away from my kids and running a serious business over there. So 2 weeks actually mix. So early stage startup who's building up, and then some startup who already have quite a bit of traction. And so we adjusted their growth model by having appropriate advisor that really help them what they really need to focus on, whatever the stage or challenge that they have.
Okay, so after the 2 week program, well, tell me about the 2 month program, or is it 2 month program?
2 months program? Yeah, 2 months program, they're really now focusing on getting fund. So at the end of a 2 months program, we do have a pitch event, right? And in that case, they have to prepare the deck. We do 101 session to make sure they know how to handle Q&A. So it's not.
Is that done remotely? Or
2 months program, you have to be in the Silicon Valley.
you have to be in
Yeah,
Silicon.
yeah. You can commute from Sacramento.
So is it every day, or is it
It is every day, and we do.
program is every day? Wow.
Yeah, you're because I mean, if you're going to work at home, as much as just not come, accelerator, and a part of our model is really being in the group. So instead of you thinking by yourself, you have other 6 or 10 bright entrepreneurs seeing you, and they giving you feedback. Like, you shouldn't be working on that. You should be really focusing on this. I think by nature, entrepreneurs are kind of ADD.
Yeah.
Right? Or stubborn, or say we are focused on it, we want to make a lot of things happen. So I noticed that they come in as a very talented superstar, but having other people sometimes help them to really focus. Like, oh, you're doing another meeting, you should be doing that. You should be doing a validation right now. No, not that phone call. Get back yourself in the room right now. Do the pitch training, things like that. It's fun.
So can you talk about maybe some of the success stories of the company program?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll tell you a success story that it's successful in our mind is 20% of company that go through actually change their mind. Change mind that they realize their idea sucks.
That's important.
It is.
That's very important.
And they cry, and they're ecstatic. Like, they're so happy. They're thanking me, Ari, so thank you so much. Because they realized that they thought this was something they're passionate. And I talked about going in much deeper, why you're freaking care and bother to spend your personal time to build something that most likely fail, right? So if you really truly understand your deeper passion, people can actually stand and continue to iterate and pivot. And so some people realize, yes, this is exactly what I want, this is who I stand for, this is the company I want to make, versus other people say, I was actually wanting to please my parents, or please my boyfriend, or whatever that might be. Like, so people said I'm good at this, that's why I started, but actually I don't really care engineering. I really want to do this. So people actually go through this major breakthrough in our program, and they just pivot as not just about company, but who they are. So some people think that's failure, but the point is they think, they got something amazing out of the program. So that's 20%.
And one could call it failure, or one could just call it learning, or self-discovery too.
Yes.
Not necessarily failure, just self-discovery.
And I love the word pivot, because like in a relationship and you have a guy that you don't like, you say, honey, it's time to pivot. Right? It's not you, it's a pivotal time. Anyway, sorry, digressed.
So you're talking about maybe some of your success stories, or?
Yeah, so So those are considered success story. The other one is we have a two company actually exited. So one's an artificial intelligence company called Cognia. They sold the company to IBM, and then the other one is a Swing by Swing golf app company. They had over 3 million active user, and sold it to media company. So they did really well. And then the other company called Red Clay, and they're in San Francisco. And she did really, really well. And I consider them as one of a role model, because she came from, I would say, not like she grew up in Silicon Valley. She had an idea, she started these things, and she worked really hard. 6 months, she built it, and she had a customer, paid a customer. But because she was so ingrained in working on the startup, she didn't have anybody noticing about her. So she came all the way driving down San Francisco and said, I'm CEO, I'm freaking lonely, and I'm so tired. Do something for me. I was like, who is she? And she said, I have a successful company, blah, blah, blah. And I thought she was just saying. And she really had incredible products. So once she got noticed by other angels and investors through our platform, boom, she went wildfire. And so she could be just being a lonely, rundown founder, but because the community, because the support, people step up and pull her up to where she needed to be. And women tended to have a less circle, so it's really, really important that you have to get yourself out to the right places. And she has a co-founder as well, that they really split their time equally, so it's amazing watching how they grew, and as a founder, co-founder, but as a company. So it's just, I think, closing at 2 million. Okay. Yeah.
So what are you looking for in a company that applies to your program?
Oh, just nice people. I'm just kidding. That's a must. No, just kidding. I think, just like many VCs say, at the end of the day, they really invest in the founder, because they already.
So you're really not looking at the idea then?
No, we do look at idea, but it's a market change, and then a lot of a great idea can turn it into the kind of business, because we have advisors like VC too, right? They have an awesome engineer. They can build a lot of things that they see that come through as an intro, right? But then they look at the founder and say, is this the guy, a lady, built the company to the next level? And so when we look at, actually we spend quite a bit of time researching all the accelerator in the world. And did you know that even 500 startup at Y Combinator, or just VC, the failure rate is over 95%. That's just nature of it, right? And there's a few that had a lower failure rate, some accelerator. And then I was wondering what it was. And it turns out that those accelerators focus a lot on the founder development. And I had an inkling about, like, why are we not focusing on founder? Because they're the source of success, they're a source of a creation, building a team when you don't have money. So you're purely being a leader to lead people. And so why are we not doing? And the other thing is, Silicon Valley has a higher suicide rate than nobody really talks about, really? Right? Yeah. So there's a lot of unsaid things that happen in Silicon Valley under huge pressure to do huge unreasonable result, right? And so I said, well, that's something to look at. So we put a lot of emphasis on the founder development. That's where it's kind of, how the program started. Yeah.
So what, and just you have kind of a unique. What are the challenges that you see specifically for women entrepreneurs?
I should ask you all.
And we can do that. We'll do that in a second, actually.
I hear same sentence, like, I'm the only woman in the room, right? That's what people said. Question is, like, what does it make her feels? Like that, it's not necessarily positive. So what they said is they usually being ignored, or they don't really take her seriously. And the challenge is when she actually goes into the business meeting, they just assume she's not technical enough or she doesn't know enough. Stace Farrow, she was the youngest entrepreneur that sold the company that Richard Branson have invested in her company, and she sold the company at the age of 21. And she started a company with her brother, and she was a CEO. But she used to say, when I went to any meeting, everybody will ask a question, look at her then look at her brother, like asking for approval. And she said, just the people didn't take her seriously. The other thing is there's just a lot of sexual harassment or the sexual things that kind of get in the way. So one is, you should never take any meeting after 5 o'clock. When her brother or other male startup founder get to go out and drink. If you go out in the evening, then you're proposing that you're open for that kind of encounter. And then I had a lot of women said, well, investors are making a move or that sort of stuff. And other older women would advise saying that you should never take evening meeting. And I was wondering, really? I don't know. I don't have an opinion that what's right, but I actually feel like, well, we're entrepreneur. We can just say, I'm going out evening to have a meeting with you because I'm serious about business. Can we have a meeting? You can just say that. But I still see so many of culture that women have to manage other men's expectation in the business setting. And so many women tended to say, like, that's extra burden. The advisor making a move, investor making a move. And okay, I had some incident like that happen, and I thought it's me. Maybe I gave a wrong signal. And when I was running my own startup. Then I started doing this Women Startup Lab things, and everybody started telling me this, what they're going through. My first startup lead investor wrote a check and said, this is the biggest check that I've written that I haven't gotten my personal favor. When are you going to do that?
Really?
Yeah. And the other one is a lead investor said, I have a document I really want you to come up in my hotel room. And I need to sign, I want you to come. And she said, no, I don't want to. And she continued to refuse to go in. And next day he said, this is not a good investment. Her reputation got ruined and she has to leave the industry. She has to start all over. And she's proven herself that she's very successful now. And I thought those was like independent cases. And every single founder had those stories. And it's not, we don't react too much, but it's just, that's the way it is. Now, is that how Silicon Valley is? I don't know. When I worked at IBM, never, ever I experienced anything close, right? So I think it's just the startup is just so open. People don't really have an opportunity to learn about it and conscious about it. And now there's a lot of conversation coming out. The fact that people has aware of those challenges, I think it's helpful. But I've been shocked.
So what do you, what's your, what would you advise a woman entrepreneur that encounters something like that? How do you handle that?
I don't know. I wish I have because you can be who you want to be, but it's really happening over there, right? They are taking action. There's so much you can do to manage your being, but you want to be who you are as running a business. So one, I would think that you need to be clear that when those things happen, you said it really politely ahead of time, not to ruin the relationship, because hey, those things happen. If they truly care about each other, it's okay to have a relationship. But when the woman said no and the men can keep pursuing using the power, that gets awkward. So just saying that I'm not interested. Unfortunate case that what I continue to see is that even women said no. I see many powerful positioned person in the valley continue to press. And I hear that kind of, Ari, what should I do? I get that all the time. And I was really shocked because I thought it was my own personal case. And I thought I was beating myself up in some level. And it turns out that so many founders have gone through so many of those horror stories. And it's not fair for men, and it's not that all the men does this, but it's just a few enough that it really scares me, especially we're really promoting young women to become entrepreneur. And I can tell you how much I fear for them because they're vulnerable, they look up to investor or mentors, advisor, right? So I just wanted to put it up because all of us have to talk about it, right? So that we just support each other for whatever that is. So sorry I don't have a perfect answer. But awareness is important. It's not about men against the woman, not at all. Yeah, I just want to set the tone because, Women Startup Lab thriving for the collaboration, integration, us working together, what matters to us. But a certain challenge that happens that, yes, it's good to talk about and just to be aware of. Yeah.
And then, I guess it goes to what are, actually my next question, leads to my next question. What are your recommendations for what things do you recommend for a woman or entrepreneur? Or is it just the same same thing you would recommend to any entrepreneur? Do you have any recommendations?
For female entrepreneur?
Is do you have something for female entrepreneurs? Or is it the same thing you would say the same thing for entrepreneurs in general?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's just twofold, right? One is you have to have an idea that people are willing to pay you. And often I see the entrepreneur fall in love with their solution, and they're not falling in love with making a customer happy. So it's just not working, and it's not working, and they continue to do the same thing, and then just moving a queue all around, and they're coming back to the same place. So really, just having a product and really listening to your customer, and if people is not paying, it's time for you to move on. And then just, you are great. You always find something. So you just have to work on the product that people pays. And then the other thing is you as an entrepreneur, right? And I've seen so many entrepreneurs, and we have this thing called of successful entrepreneur traits. And one of the things that I see specific, we call rockstar founder, they are resilient. And they're not trying to be resilient. They just oblivious to how positive, overly delusionally positive, and grateful. And they're strategic and very smart, but they just have that undying positiveness. So, people say, well, of course you don't have money, that's why you have a people like that is not growing. Of course, people always feed in mediocre expectation. And entrepreneur, they say, well, but that's what I want. I don't care. I only have $100, but I want to have $1,000 quality employee. And to do that, I'm going to do this or whatever, right? So they have this undying creativity and positiveness that go on. So if you really want to make things happen, you want to pursue your startup, it begins with how you have thoughts, how creative you have been. And what I also practice is you can't do it alone. And if you're not doing alone, what kind of strategy do you have to build the ecosystem around you? So one is, have a good team, right? It's not as easy as it's said. So networking, yeah. But the other things I personally do is I have 2 people in my life that designated to be positive person. So no matter what I do, I might completely screw it up. When I call up, I need your help means it's like code. That person has to say, don't worry, it's all going to be okay. Don't worry, you're doing the right things. Tomorrow's going to be better day. No, that's exactly what you should have done, right? And you just, because you screwed up or things not working. And many advisors tell you the truth that you just screwed up. You should have done that, right? But you sometimes need somebody to say, you're completely okay. It's part of it. You were awesome. And it's as stupid as it sounds, but I have to say I've been saved many times. So.
It's interesting. I talk to you like Elizabeth and I talk about every once in a while you need to you gotta be talked off the ledge, right?
Yeah.
So you actually have a person that's dedicated to talking you off the ledge.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I should sell this mug cup that literally say those. So you give that to husband, let's say. You filled up a coffee and here, honey. And that means don't give me advice. Just read off every word is said in a mug. It's like, wow, you're so great. Mm-hmm. You should write a book about that. Wow. That's all it is, like a mug. Like, here, honey. Don't you think that would be good? So they off the pressure for husband. Anyway.
Okay, so I'm going to actually next time give the opportunity to ask for our audience to ask Ari any questions. So, anybody? And I don't think we have a mic, so we'll just have to repeat the question, and then go ahead.
Should I stand up?
Yeah, and then I'll have to maybe if you could paraphrase the question.
If I can get out of this chair.
Let's just stay there.
Okay.
We're friends here.
Okay.
We're good.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you for your share. My name is Pamela Gustava, and I'm the founder of Rent Power America. And our goal is to convert renters into homeowners. And we want to have a national, I say we, me, want to have a national company that actually does this. And what I was wondering is, I don't have a technical co-founder as of yet.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why I'm here, because I'm looking for a technical co-founder that can actually build a mobile app and build a backend and all that. And I was wondering, would that affect me? Because I did apply at YC, and they said, "Oh my God, we love Rent Power America and all that, but why don't you have a technical co-founder?" And the reason why I don't have one is because I've developed everything all the way up until now. I need a technical co-founder. I haven't needed one before, and every time I would go to a technical co-founder, they would say, "You're not ready for a technical co-founder yet. Do some more development." And now I'm ready for a technical co-founder and to go into an accelerator. So how would that work in regards to me not having a technical co-founder?
Well, I mean, if you just want to have a great company that makes money, right, and you're not asking for investor to give you money, you can do whatever you want just to build a successful company, right? But you were talking about going an accelerator, they're giving you money, which means they're investor, right? And so that means obviously you have to build in the way that the building is structurally sound. And having a co-founder really give them confidence, but statistically, startup is hard, like I said. So when you have a co-founder, that much solid team that they are investing into. So it's not the right or wrong way, but from investors' point of view, that's something that's really critical. And if technical part is not solid, they question. So, and the next question is, how would I find a technical co-founder? And I mean, it is challenging. And that's why some said Y Combinator starts from college kids, focus on that because they already have that bond.
Right.
And then all of us are busy life and trying to find that bond and to build the company together, that's that much riskier, right? So it is challenging. One of the things is obviously getting to know people, so through the friends' recommendation. And the other thing, many of my friends, they have done is just to reach out through Elance and getting really good technical folks, and then you learn which one's really committed and then have them start helping. And I ended up using this technical group in Japan, and they were on the Skype all the time, and they were solid. And then Dave McClure said Japan has one of the highest skilled engineer, but it's cheaper. And when they say they're gonna deliver, they deliver. And they sometimes give me an update all the time to the point, I don't need your email anymore. They were like so meticulous. But the point is, so consider just instead of putting too much pressure, let's get going and get somebody helps you, and that might lead to the next answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to apply because I know the 15th is the deadline to apply to the accelerator. So I'm going to apply.
Yeah.
Laura?
I think he had a question.
Alan?
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask. It's very curious. We actually had this conversation about the gender issue at work, and so have you seen the success being collaborative with both genders, or have you seen the success being more siloed toward females working with females better, and males working with males? But I'm just curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So some people said, like when I started a women's startup lab, because I was just like, oh, let's do it. So I didn't take it too seriously. So many people said, wow, you are a discriminatory organization. And it's like, oh, really? I didn't know that. No. So my thing is, it is okay to have a woman together, but my message to the world is really, when you look at all the data, when you have a woman and men together, the result is greater. Right, so I'm not saying that women-led company have a higher return of investment than a male-led company. Therefore, some might interpret as so women's better, and I said no, not necessarily. It's a woman's being in the corporation and have that in the mix. Their return of investment 40% higher in a corporate level. So we focus on women, but our advisor and even our class is open to their male teammate. What we focus on is we bring the conversation and create an environment the women tend to thrive better. So for example, you think women talk a lot, and if men can say, well, let's solve the problem, stop talking. But honey, she said this, like women talk and bounce it off, they're solving a problem very differently. We're a collaborative being, we need to speak out, we want to get feedback from you. So they don't aim and shoot and run and compete. They're actually really good at getting a feel of what's going on. So they enroll their customer, they know what's going on better, they're good at building a team consensus, and it prevents a lot of a problem by making sure that everybody's connected on the same page, right? So many of business structure or many of, let's say, accelerator might be designed by men and they might be more competitive in nature. You see men go up on the stage and it's like, I'm better than that app. And when you see women on the stage, they say, oh, I like your shirts. I like your product. Oh, we should have your 3D shoes that design match with my printing ad, right? So women collaborate all the time. So it's funny, but that's what women do. So the point is, let's have a collaborative environment that makes most women thrive in the environment. And once they recognize their strength and find their voice, because throughout their life, they've been struggling, or I shouldn't say they're struggling, but we've been taught that we have to speak louder, we have to be more competitive, we have to ask. But that's not our nature. And it is okay to focus on what we're good at to solve the problem in the way that they actually gain the confidence. And you notice that many girls who go to girls' school, they have a much higher confidence in who they are because they had a time to build their own style and see their success. The other interesting statistic is when women sell product or doing something for friends, their sales success rate is 30% higher than when she's selling something about their product. Women are suck at selling themselves. And so, when you think of it, the data's coming up over and over, and we're just saying, hey, let's accept. She's feminine or she has a certain trait. Let's have a program that it's more natural for us. Then go in the world and kick ass in the way that works and work with men, right? And then, so the both sides is really appreciated and recognized. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We had a question in the back.
Yeah, to follow up Pamela's question, if you can find angel funding, you don't need a technical co-founder, but just go hire your own technical resource. I mean, you don't have to have somebody that actually becomes a co-founder with you. If you have your idea, you know what you want to build, but you need somebody with that technical skill. Is it just about money at that point? I mean,
Angels a lot more open, right? And they often invest in you because they believe in you, versus VCs, the institutional money. So they have to go through much bigger data and all that to really figure it out. So yeah, Angel is a better bet in that sense. But again, it's business. So from her or his point of view, depends on the product. It's really sophisticated technical product, and you don't have a CTO. People would wonder. Or do you have an advisor that it's really industry leader advisor lineup? Then that might help. Some that might not have a CTO, but has really strong COO, right? She's really great at managing a technical team. So, it's not a black and white. And you can be successful in your way, but more than anything, to try to fit in what investor says, because 10 different investors has a different suggestion opinion. And the best way that you would not waste your time is you spend the same amount of time with your customer. Then every ounce of time you spend will give back fees into your business. But if you spend so much time networking and talking to so many investors when you're not ready, that 6 months could be wasted. So that's the risk you take. And so here, the fact that women's not getting as much fund, I don't know our job is to make it equal, but our focus is making women successful. So often we said, okay, are you sure you want to raise fund right now? Or it's the same amount of time it's going to take for you to raise fund. Should you actually spend the time to build the product or spend the time with the customer? Because if that funding doesn't go well, 6 months you wasted. But if you spend that 6 months with your customer and build the product, chances are that's where you should be money, and nobody will argue with that result. And the investor will come and say, can you please accept my check? That's where you want to be, so, yeah.
Question in the back over here.
I have a question. Have you ever had an accelerator come through your accelerator as a building mechanism? Had an accelerator that was being built through your accelerator?
So some of the graduate of other accelerator came through?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, actually quite a bit. And we even have several, I wouldn't say half, but 30% of our graduate are serial entrepreneur, which is really unique.
Do you have any examples of ones that have?
Yeah. So we had a lot of founder came through after graduating in Founder Institute. and other accelerator. And many decided to choose our program after their own experience is that community. I really want to be around other women so that I have more support. And you'll never see male serial entrepreneur said, I want to go men's startup lab, right? But the female serial entrepreneur came to us saying, I want to give it back, that's one. Two, I want to connect with other powerful women. And I'm tired of running a company like men. What I mean by men is I have to be a certain way, like very top-down approach. I want to say, how are things going? Can I give you a hug or whatever? And not being looked at as you are too soft. And I want to develop own feminine style. So some of the serial entrepreneurs who came through our program said those things because they wanted to connect with other and wanted to learn from other women. So it's not just about us providing something for them, but then they realize there's more than just the building company, but the learning that you get and support that you get from other female entrepreneurs, such a high value for many women. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Can I ask another?
Sure.
Oh, good. Another thing too in regards to the technical part of it is that my research shows that all the technology that I need already exists in other potential partnerships. And I was kind of thinking probably really all I need is just a really good person that knows how to bring together or to, integrate the existing technology, because they would be good partners anyway. So I was kind of thinking, and that's the thing, I really don't know. And so I do have some potential really big companies like Apster that said they will be my technical founder. Not like a founder to go to the accelerator, because they can't go to an accelerator with me. Mm-hmm. But, they will sign on as being a technical partner.
Right. Well, I mean, you can do any way you want to succeed. Y Combinator is not the success formula, right? They have, just like any school has their niche. I want to have kids that this kind of personality or background, right? So they have their own formula. And if they demand that you need to have a technical CTO, that's their focus. They really want to make sure that it's a very technically sounded company and built a certain way. And when you go to other accelerator, they have different formula. So if what they said, what they want is not matching with your DNA right now, you need to think about what is your success, right? Your success should come from customer and they're paying you money. And if you think all those good reasons why this and that, you need to ask yourself, what I'm not accepting about my own success? And then you don't need to reflect the Y Combinator that accepts you to say you're the stellar. I mean, it's great. Yeah. I mean, I had out of our program, one went into Y Combinator, one went into 500. So we have pretty good stellar founders go through the next step, right? One of the things that's a startup that go through us, other startup also looking to have a better groomed startups. So when you go through our program, they have a much higher chance, or they actually being offered a scholarship and more fun to go through other programs. So you get, obviously better chance of doing. But just don't get caught up on the what Y Combinator do. I mean, they're doing the best that they can for their focus, but it's not a goddess formula. Yeah. Make sure you focus on your customer and your formula.
Thank you.
Laura, I think Laura actually wanted to give it.
Yes.
I have a question though. Can I ask
Okay,
one
go ahead.
question?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't even know if this is true, but are there sort of tech areas that are easier for women to succeed in from a startup founder standpoint? Like, for example, a social media app versus a security app or program, or are there just certain industries within tech that women are having more success in?
Well, I mean, that's kind of sits on the bias. Like, people think that, oh, you're a woman's entrepreneur, are you related to fashion? right? And I went to one of a conference, and all the sample or role model, the female entrepreneur they decide to showcase, they're all fashion. And when we say Women Startup Lab, some people say, please do not have 80% of fashion startup. I don't want to be in your program and the rest of it's fashion. It's like, no. But it's a society think that's the only, or that's women's strength. So I think you really look at, again, it's to go back to, what is your strength? And when you have a multiple opportunity, you have to look at strategically, my background, would it thrive in which industry? So, for example, edutech, there are a lot more female entrepreneur in there, and so you have more support, more community, and they are more perceptive to invest in a woman based on the unconscious bias might exist and much less, possibly. It's not a truth, but I'm just something to think about versus another industry. Biotech, I see a lot of stronger female entrepreneurs. They're very knowledge-driven, but again, it's a long, hard journey, right? So it really depends on which industry, your background, and how long are you willing to go, right? And it has a lot to do with your financial status too. Like, can you go on without not getting money for 2-3 years? Are you okay with it? Yeah, so.
So I wanted to thank you for making, we wanted to thank you for coming all the way here from the Silicon Valley. And so, something to come back with and hang on your wall.
Thank you.